Let's take a look back at the weekend. Last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn did my LASIK. They should do yours with local vision protection. So what do we got back over the weekend? Caleb, what stands out to you, sir?
All right, so we're going to start with Georgia reestablishing its supremacy. I think Georgia kind of reminded everybody that, yes, that loss to Alabama was rough, but they did reestablish the fact that they are the most talented team in college football.
That's crazy.
I disagree with that. I think there are about 6 teams that are the most talented teams in college football, and I think it just depends on your approach to that particular game. I think Texas and Georgia could play this weekend, and Texas could win that game.
Yeah, but you may have a point, but top to bottom, Georgia showed it because they went to Texas and they didn't just beat Texas; they beat them pretty handily. So
yeah.
I mean, that's why
I get you. I believe that your approach now, and why I say that the Oklahoma win was a big win, and why the way they beat Alabama was significant, because it's a survive and advance. It's just like the NCAA basketball tournament. It's just happening during the year. Last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
The first step to better vision is to visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at ccteyes.com.
Looking back over the weekend, what do you got next, Caleb?
All right, so up next is we're going to stick with the SEC. A lot of SEC storylines because the Vols win big time, and they may have triggered panic time in Tuscaloosa. We've talked about that a lot. I think Tuscaloosa's panicking because they just don't know what the state of college football is right now, but we've already addressed that to a certain degree.
I think it is panic time in Tuscaloosa. And the main reason is because of fan expectation and the fact that they're not willing to make this. Anybody with any sense whatsoever would realize that no matter who you hire, there is going to be a transitionary period. And I think not only do the players at Alabama right now question this player's approach, and which is what Kalen DeBoer is. I think some of the tough guys feel like they need to be pushed, and I think some of the other guys are taking advantage of it, the younger guys. And I told you there were chemistry issues at Alabama last week, and I think that's going to continue to crop up.
Hey now.
Just for me. All right, what's next, Caleb?
And my final SEC take of the week is, guys, don't look now, but guess who the 2 undefeated teams in SEC play are?
It's Texas A&M and LSU.
Mm-hmm. Both who lost their openers. Yeah. Both of them could be big threats. So that's my final one of the 3. Those are both in the playoff race too. Moving on across the rest of the country, Oregon becomes the number 1 team in the nation by default. They beat Purdue on the road on a Friday night, but the win over Ohio State counts, and with so many other teams on a bye, Oregon gets to take the number 1 spot in the nation right now. I don't know how long it'll last, but
I'll agree with you at number 1. Ultimately, when those teams on the West Coast have to face SEC teams with bigger, more athletic guys in the trenches, that's going to be the determining factor.
Totally agree. All right, next we have surprise contenders across the lower Midwest. And for those who question what I say when I say lower Midwest, I'm talking Midwestern states below the Great Lakes. Does that make sense? To a certain degree. So,
by the way, please hit the thumbs up, the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, do that. Cooper May's coming up later today. Notifications brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. So what states are you talking about? West Virginia?
No. Across the Midwest. So I'm going from I'll name them, and you'll know them as I name them. But Iowa State still undefeated, beat UCF 38-35.
Oh my goodness.
Missouri still a contender. They are technically a lower Midwest state, even though they're in the SEC. But they only have 1 loss. Wait, are you ready for this? Illinois goes to Ann Arbor and beats. I'm sorry, not goes, but they host Michigan and they beat Michigan. At home.
But I told you that guy, you told me he was the next Philip Fulmer. I told you that guy, Sharon Moore, is not going to be a great head coach.
Well, don't forget what Philip Fulmer did his first year with his recruiting class. He went 8-4 and had a 1-3 start. So, that was his second year at Tennessee, but that was his first year with his players. So,
well, you don't have Jim cheating Harbaugh at the helm.
Yes. And then moving on east, I've gone from Iowa State to Missouri to Illinois to now Dave, you got to give Indiana some respect. They
You
didn't just
suck.
beat Nebraska. They beat Nebraska 56-7, and they're still undefeated.
No.
Which
If Indiana is in the playoff, we just got to nix the whole thing.
which one of those lower Midwest teams gets to the playoff if you have to pick one? Who's going? Iowa State, Missouri, Indiana, or Illinois?
Neither.
No, you have to pick one. One of them's going. If
No.
one of them's going, who's going?
No, I'm not picking one. I refuse. Because if
Alrighty.
either one of those teams goes, okay, I do think the coach at Indiana is really good. I don't think he's going to be there for long. So
No,
I would
he's-
say Indiana probably makes it.
You hear that, kids at Indiana? You don't have to choke players to win. It's possible. So moving on from
Bobby
that,
Knight, by the way. That's a reference for those that didn't get that. Bobby Knight.
Yes, Bobby
What's up,
Knight.
Knight?
All right, so things
You know, that's
are
why he
way-
choked that kid, right? Because he said, "What's up, Knight?"
Oh yeah, and then he's like, "It's Mr. Knight to you. It's Coach Knight." I know.
Yeah.
All right, so up next, things are just way worse for Lincoln Riley and Mike Norvell. Dave, which one of those gets fired first? Florida State lost to Duke, and y'all know I'm a
You know,
Trump
I get the
fan.
feeling that
Maryland
Lincoln
beating
Riley-
USC.
I get the feeling that Lincoln Riley is going to hold on for like 2 or 3 more years because of his contract, the way Jimbo Fisher did. Didn't we all know about 3 years before Jimbo Fisher was fired that he should be fired? I think that's where you are with Lincoln Riley right now. I don't know the specifics of Norvell's contract situation, but surely it can't be as one-sided as Lincoln Riley's is.
Well, also surely the poor play is not as one-sided. Florida State's 1-6 and just lost to Duke for the first time in history.
How does that happen from barely missing a 4-team college football playoff to just the wheels coming off?
I told you all this at the beginning of the year, and here's what I think happens, Dave, is I think that, and you know this with Gene Chizik, landing Cam Newton. I think Florida State was already a declining program with Mike Norvell, but they lucked out with the right quarterback 1 year in Jordan Travis. And you know this, Dave, you can have a bad program, but have a good year because you get the right quarterback. I think that's Miami right now with Cam Ward and Mario Cristobal. They have the right quarterback, but they're a bad program. I think Florida State's a bad program. They just landed Jordan Travis. And again, the most obvious example was Gene Chizik was running a pathetic program at Auburn, but he rented Cam Newton for a year.
Yep. Don't forget to use the promo code HOOKED for the latest TriStar hats memorabilia. It is fantastic. And Caleb will give his final take as we look back over the weekend last week. Brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without
All right, Caleb. Anything else on the last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn?
Yeah, 2 more takes, and one is really relevant to Tennessee, which is this, and the SEC in general. I was wrong. I thought the ACC and the Big 12 would each really only get one team, and the rest and all the wild cards would come from the SEC and Big 10. But Dave, the Big 12 has, I mentioned Iowa State. BYU's also undefeated. Kansas State has 1 loss. Colorado just beats Arizona and has 2 losses. The Big 12 could get 2 teams in. And then on the ACC side, Dave, Miami's undefeated. Pittsburgh's still undefeated. They have a bye. Miami beats Louisville. SMU's in the top 25 with 1 loss. Duke has 1 loss. Syracuse has 1 loss. And sneaking up, Clemson's back in the top 10 with just 1 loss. And that 1 loss is to Georgia. So you could get 2 teams from each conference in the playoff.
Little random here, but if I had to ask you to bet that Dabo Swinney or Steve Sarkisian, one proven, one unproven, will win a national title, who would it be? Another one moving forward.
I'd say Steve Sarkisian. I think Clemson is doing well. Kate Klubnik's doing well, but I think that Clemson, if you look at the transfer portal and you look at the recruiting, there's been a massive drop-off in the roster talent at Clemson.
Caleb, what else you got?
And finally, Army-Navy. They both win again. Still both undefeated for the first time since
Hey now.
before the Great Depression. Now, here's the crazy part. Dave, I got something wrong. I've told you guys constantly the College Football Playoff makes a selection show the week before the Army-Navy game, and there's going to be a group of 5 team that has to get in, and they'll both be in the running. It's a little bit crazier than that. They're both in the American Athletic Conference, Dave. They could play for the conference championship game the week before the actual Army-Navy game is. What do you do for this selection? Yeah, they could play each other. They're both in the American. They could finish 1 and 2 in the American, and they play for the American championship the week before they play each other for the official Army-Navy game. And here's the crazy part about that. Should the selection committee just make the decision based on the championship game? And then if you're an Army and Navy, do you just rest your starters for that other game because it doesn't matter because the team is already in the playoff? I mean, this is a crazy, psychotic scenario they set up because they so arrogantly wanted a Saturday to themselves.
Somebody should have thought this out a little bit better.